Recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. Part 1 of Creative Mind. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Kirk Ziegler, Ogden, Utah. Voiceovers by Kirk.com. Creative Mind by Ernest Shurtleff Holmes. Part 1. Introduction. The hand of eternal progress is brushing the cobwebs from the corridors of time and is again revealing to the human race the mysteries of being. As there is nothing new under the sun, the searchlight of truth is bringing to light only what has been known to the few in all generations. The time has now come when the few must become the many. The whole world, from the least to the greatest, must know the truth so that man may understand the great laws that govern his life. He must learn to control his own destiny, to heal his own body, and bring happiness to his own soul. Ignorance must vanish, and understanding must be ushered in. Man is no longer to be governed by anything outside himself. Creeds, doctrines, churches, institutions, organizations, governments are all being changed to give place to the realization of the individual. There is a power in and through all that is working this great transformation. All that will not measure up to the standard must fall by its own weight. All that is in line with the truth must still prosper. The time is at hand. We are in the greatest age of all history. We are in the age of the unifying of all people and all things into the ever-present one. The temple, not made with hands, is now being silently builded by the emancipated souls of this planet. This little book is an attempt to explain what each soul must discover for himself, that he stands in the midst of an eternal creative power which presses itself around his own thought and casts back to him glorified all that he thinks. If it awakens within the consciousness of one single individual the realization that the mind of the universe, which is the only mind that there is his own mind, that the creative power of this mind is his also, that the manifestation of this mind is his own individuality, that the love and power and peace of this mind is within himself, it will not be written in vain. May it then do much in simplifying and bringing to light some of the deeper mysteries and meanings of life. Ernest Shurtleff Holmes, October 1st, 1918. In the beginning, God. Clear and expressive are these words. In the beginning, God only. No manifest universe, no system of planets, nothing of form or life, of brute or man. God was the spirit of all that was to be, but he had not yet moved upon the waters. Then this all being moved, or began to create. Where did spirit move? Upon what did it move to create? Where did it get a pattern? What means or power did it employ? Through what agencies did it work? In short, what is the world, ourselves included, made out of, and how did we and all else come into being? These questions, correctly answered, would solve the problem of being and set men free. Let us consider. The Spirit was all. There was nothing else but itself. All-inclusive, everywhere, infinite. This all-spirit could not have had the impulse to move unless it were self-conscious. Therefore, the spirit is the power that knows itself. It is accordingly all-knowing as well as all-present, being one, undivided. Whatever it knows all over instantly. We find then that the spirit operates through self-knowing. It moves, and that inner movement must be one of infinite power, moving upon itself, since it is all, and with a definite purpose. The spirit then moves upon itself, and makes out of itself all that is made. In other words, what we see comes from what we do not see, through some inner intelligence at work, which knows there is no power but itself. The things that are seen are not made of the things that do appear. The only possible operation of intelligence is thought, or the word. So all things were made by the word. and without the Word was not anything made that hath been made. How simple the process of creation when we understand it. The Spirit speaks, and since there is nothing but the Spirit, and it is all power, it has only to speak, and it is done. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. From the Word, then, comes forth all that appears, each life, human or divine. Each manifestation is a different kind of word coming into expression. The great fact to dwell upon is that spirit needs nothing to help it. It is self conscious and has all power and all ability to do whatever it wishes to accomplish. It operates simply by speaking. It is hard to get a clear concept of this great, ceaseless cause, this something from which all things come. At times we get into a maze of confusion when we attempt to realize what the Spirit means. It is then that we should think of it as the great reason behind everything. Being all knowledge, it must know itself, and must know everything it creates. So it knows us, and it knows everyone. Since it is all presence, we can contact anywhere, and will never have to go to some particular spot to find it. As it is all knowing and operates through the power of the Word, it knows everything we think. Just how it creates, we cannot know, and need not attempt to understand. For whatever this process of creation is, we find it is always an inner thought process. We should keep this in mind. The Spirit makes all things out of itself. Everything comes into being without effort. And when we exert ourselves, we are not in accord with the creative spirit in the way in which it works. The impulse of the spirit to move must be caused by a desire to express what it feels itself to be: beauty, form, color, life, love, and power. All things else we find in the manifest universe are attributes of the spirit, and are caused to spring into being through the Word, because the spirit wants to enjoy itself. We find then that the Word, which is the inner activity of thought, comes first in the creative series, and all else comes from the effect of the Word, operating upon a universal substance. If the Word precedes all else, then the Word is what we are looking for, and when we get it, we shall have what the world has sought from time immemorial. We must, if we wish to prove the power of the Spirit in our lives, look not to outside things or effects, but to the Word alone. The human eye sees, and the human hand touches only that which is an effect. Unseen law controls everything, but this law is also an effect. Law did not make itself. The law is not intelligence or causation. Before there can be a law, there must be something that acts, and the law is the way it acts. It is intelligence. In the beginning was the Word. This Word, or the activity of the Spirit, is the cause of the law, and the law in its place is the cause of the thing, and the thing is always an effect. That is, it did not make itself, it is a result. The Word always comes first in the creative series. The Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word still is God. When we realize that man is like God, and he could not be otherwise, being made out of God, we realize that his word also has power. If there is but one mind, then it follows that our word, our thought, is the activity of that one mind in our consciousness. The power that holds the planets in their place is the same power that flows through man. We must place the word where it belongs, whether it is the word of God in the universe or the word of man in the individual. It is always first, before all else, in the beginning. The real sequence is this: cause, spirit; intelligence, God; the word, the activity of intelligence; the effect, or the visible thing, whether it is a planet or a peanut. All are made out of the same thing. What we need to do is learn how to use the word so that all will come to see that they are creative centers within themselves. A principle that can be proven. Knowing that mind is.
I've got the Colombian Supremo. Thanks to Monsieur Tiedrick out there in Happy Land, we have got the big bag of the Members Mark. Whole bean, sweet chocolate, and a hazelnut notes. 2.5 pound bag, baby. Nice. What's up in Tinseltown, Jeff? What do you got going on out there in Happy Land? I like this comment right here. Frank Monday for the people. That's right. I hear they got the January 6th trials going on. I was just listening to Mark Dice break it down for me. You like Mark Dice? Yeah.
We have a principle that is absolute. It is exact. It is going to correspond with our thinking about it. The first great necessity is to believe this. Without belief, we can do nothing. This is the reason Jesus said, "It is done unto you even as you have believed." Always it is done unto people as they believe. And there is something that does it which never fails. We must believe that our word is formed upon and around this creative mind. For instance, we wish to create activity in our business. We believe that our word is law about that thing. And there is something that takes our thought and executes it for us. If we have accepted the fact that all is mind and that the thought is the thing, we shall see at once that our word is the power behind the thing, and that it depends upon the word or thought that we are sending out. So plastic is mind, so receptive, that the slightest thought makes an impression upon it. People who think many kinds of thought must expect to receive a confused manifestation in their lives. If a gardener plants 1,000 kinds of seeds, he will get 1,000 kinds of plants. It is the same in mind. The word going forth. Since this is true, everything depends upon our mental concepts. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The Bible reiterates this statement, telling us many times of the creative power of thought. Jesus taught nothing else. He said, "The words which I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." The centurion coming to Jesus recognized the power of the words spoken by the latter. He said, "I also am one in authority." But his authority was on the physical plane, and he saw that Jesus had authority on a spiritual plane. For he said, "Speak the word only." The Bible also tells us that the word is not afar off, but in our own mouth. It is neither here nor there. It is within every living soul. We must take responsibility for our own lives. We must awake to the fact that they have absolute control over their lives, and that nothing can happen by chance. Then they will have a broader concept of God, a greater tolerance for their neighbor, and a greater realization of their own divine nature. What a relief from strenuous labor! No more struggle or strife. Be still and know that I am God, and beside me there is none other. The Spirit being all there is, we cannot conceive of anything that can hinder its working. When the Spirit is spoken, the Word becomes law. For before law is the Word. It precedes all else. First is absolute intelligence, all power, all presence, all causation. Then the movement upon itself through the power of the Word. Then the Word becoming law. The law producing the thing and holding it in place. So long as the Word exists, the thing will exist. For since the Word is all power, there is nothing beside it. I am that I am, and beside me there is none other. This I am is Spirit, God, all. There is no physical explanation for anything in the universe. All causation is spirit and effect spiritual. We are not living in a physical world, but in a spiritual world peopled with spiritual ideas. We are now living in spirit. God, or Spirit, governs the universe through great mental laws that work out the divine will and purpose.
This evening, This fine evening, Jeff, we are listening to Creative Mind, a self-development audiobook by Esoteric Tower. The original transcript was written by Ernest Shirtleff Holmes. It's kind of an interesting name. Ernest Shirtleff Holmes. And it's entitled Creative Mind. Yeah, Jeff, doing stand-up has become kind of toxic, and they kind of, not kind of, they have absolutely shut down all types of social activities here in China. So unless you're organized by the state, then you really can't do much of anything anymore. They absolutely did. They shut down all private businesses. They've just shut down the entire country pretty much. So getting out and doing that, I would need a speakeasy, right? I've thought about it, and I think it would be fun to have a speakeasy for jazz, cabaret, stand-up, and dance. But unless you have it's like World War II Nazi Germany, I would imagine, or Bolshevik Russia, revolution style. You guys know the score. I don't want to talk about it. Like I said, we got to be careful on any platform these days what we even mention. It's so interesting to me that we're living in a world where even a certain combination of words, like any given phrase, could trigger your ultimate demise. So you've got to be wary of that, because it's a real deal. I've already felt it. I felt the hard backslap of the Karens at BoobTube 3 times now, 3 or 4 times. And it's always for something completely innocuous. And then at the same time, I'll watch other guys like Mark Dice or Paul Joseph Watson, or who else? WeAreChange.org. And they'll say basically whatever they want, and they'll report on whatever they want, and nothing ever happens to them. Like recently I was watching Theoria Apophasia, the tattooed monkey guy, and he runs his mouth reckless, and he never gets any trouble. So it's just very arbitrary. Like, in the blink of an eye, they could shut down someone with 1 million subs that they disagree with. But then at the same time, there could be guys out there with 500,000 or 50,000 subs that run their mouth totally reckless, and nothing ever happens to them. So I'm extremely jaded by the situation. And so not only is that like super apparent here on the boob, you guys know I like to call the YouTube the boob tube. So here on the boob tube, it's extremely toxic for freedom of speech. It's a very toxic environment, very anti-freedom of speech. So I try to be a little bit careful. Let me read a few of these comments and try to catch up with the chat, guys. Yeah, so I like the Jufro. Jeff and I like doing stand up, but the stand up scene, I started doing stand up here in the Capitol back around like 2009, something like that. I didn't even want to do it. I got talked into it because I was running my dance class, and I also had like an actors training class, like an improv class. I was doing improv. Don't hold it against me, right? I only did it for a few years. Well, I took an improv class for a few years, and I'm like, this is easy. I could run one of these classes. And so I just started running my own improv class. But really, what I wanted to do was the swing dance class and the paranormal studies classes. And so I just used the improv format to lure in young creative types that wanted to investigate theater and stuff, and then try to lure them over to doing things more productive, like dancing and doing ceremonial magic. So that was my covert intention of starting the improv. But I was doing the improv, and then Comedy Club China was formed by a guy named Toby Jarman, and what was the other guy? There was an Asian guy from Washington D.C. Toby was from Colorado, I think, like Denver area, and he came over here to Beijing, and he was studying. He's like, let's do stand up. And so he started a little stand up club called Comedy Club China. Toby Jarman did. And Ryan Ha, that's who the Asian guy was. So it was Toby Jarman and Ryan Ha. And they're the ones that started the Comedy Club China. Toby Jarman, M-A-N, I think, yeah. And so they would come at the end of my improv class and watch me, and they'd be like, hey, Frank, you need to get up here and do stand-up. And so I watched them build their little, I think they did it on a Wednesday night, it seems like. They did a little Wednesday night stand-up at the same club I was doing an improv class. And I watched them build up their following and their presentations and stuff for a year. I watched them for a year before I tried it myself. And I realized after watching it every week for a year, 52 shows, 52 open mic nights, like none of them ever really developed new material. Like the entire time, it was like on rerun every night, same material, same material. So I just sat back and took notes and studied them very carefully. And then I was like, yeah, I could probably do this. So I got into doing stand-up comedy with the intention of writing new material every week. And you guys, I don't know if you've never done stand-up before, that is so difficult. And so I did it for 2 years. I wrote new material every week for 2 years. And after 2 years of trying to write jokes every week, like just commenting on the stories of the day or whatever, I realized, man, that's a tough job. That's not any kind of fun. So I gave it up, man. Well, at the same time, the environment became very toxic. It's where I started to learn about PC culture and the rainbow movement and transgender and gender fluidity and all of that kind of thing. And I was like, have you guys lost your damn minds? Because I'd been out of the US for already over a decade. And so those guys, those younger generation guys, mid-20s, because it was guys in the mid-30s. And so all of us, I was probably the oldest, one of the oldest in the stand-up scene. And but the other guys who started it, like Toby Jarman and Ryan Ha, they were gangster, kind of ghetto, they would Richard Pryor type stuff, Anyway, we had similar roots, even though we were still a generation apart. But the new generation, when the millennials started showing up and doing their routines, it just immediately destroyed it. It killed comedy. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to back off, because it became such a toxic environment with all of their newfangled ideas of transhumanism and stuff, and it like totally went against everything everyone in my generation, the generation just following me, had been raised to believe as morality and dignity and human beauty and stuff like that. They went like, they were just like, I don't know, they're just in the gutter, man. Their minds, their lifestyles, like their mentality, like, I don't know, it was really, really weird, man. So it became extremely, the thing is, it became extremely toxic and dangerous, because not only could you just like do your routine, if they started picking it apart, they would start to just try to destroy your reputation and bring that whole cancel culture against you, even here, you know, in the distant reaches of Twilight Zone old Peking. And so I got out of it. I'm like, nah, not for me, man. I'm gone. If I can't make jokes and point out the absolute ludicrousness, then I'm done. So I bailed on it, man. It would be fun to do it again though with people closer to my age. Yeah, kids these days don't understand comedy. So that's in reference to that. I gotta work on that.
Always operating from intelligence. This intelligence is so vast and the power so great that our human minds cannot even grasp it.
I gotta work on that coffee, guys.
All that we can hope to do is to learn something of the way in which it works, and by harmonizing ourselves with it, to so align ourselves with spirit that our lives may be controlled by the great harmony that obtains in all the higher laws of nature, but has been very imperfectly manifested in man. This brings us to the second point of consideration. Why and what is man? We find in the physical universe that automatic laws govern everything. For instance, the tree cannot say, I will not, because of the law that holds it in place. It grows without any volition of its own. So it is with all nature, but when we come to man, we find a different manifestation of the Spirit, a being who can say, I choose. In all creation, man alone is an individual. Man alone is free, and yet man alone wants, is sick, suffers, and is unhappy. Man marks the earth with ruin. Why? Because he has not found his true nature. The very thing that should free him, and eventually will do so, now limits him. God could not make an individual without making him able to think, and he cannot think without bringing upon himself the results of his thought, good or bad. This does not mean using two powers, but using the one from two standpoints. Nothing in itself is either good or bad. All things exist in the mind as a potentiality. Mind is eternally acting upon thought, continually producing its own images from mind and casting them out into manifestation. Man must be the outcome of the desire of the spirit to make something which expresses the same life that it feels. Man is made to be a companion of the infinite, but to arrive at this exalted plane of being, he must have his freedom and be let alone to discover his own nature, to return love to his creator only when he chooses to do so.
Got the pour over going, guys. So since Chris mentioned magic here, let's see, where did he mention it? To answer a couple of quick questions from the chat, from the ideas room. It's summer right now. We've been, I think we're 3 weeks into summer according to the Chinese calendar. It's getting hot. I mean, we're in the northern hemisphere, so it's just the same as anyone in the northern hemisphere. We've got the same rotation. So we're in summer right now. It's what is it? It's 11 days to the summer solstice. So the summer solstice by the Chinese calendar is the midpoint of summer, the middle of summer. I think on the Western calendar, they typically use the summer solstice as the beginning of summer. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see, I think it actually has a lot to do with esoteric knowledge. Standing against the state is one thing, but deeper knowledge combined is dangerous. Yeah, well, I'll tell you, where was I going to go with? Yeah, we'll not get, I won't get into that just yet because I wanted to talk about something else. But Let me check the chat, make sure I'm keeping up. Yeah, it's nearly impossible. I found that the best routine for writing comedy is you write some stuff and try it out and see how well it works, and then you can use it. You can repeat it. You can do reruns about 4 or 5 times, and the comedy, as long as you have like fresh audience all the time and stuff, like the audience gets rotated, it's new people coming in, it will work pretty well 3 or 4 times. Like the third time you do it, third time is a charm, right? The third time will be the best. And then you'll still kind of get a reaction the fourth and the fifth time. But about after that, it starts to wear thin. And it's not because, like, even if you have a fresh new room of audience that have never heard your jokes before or whatever, so obviously some of it's time sensitive if you're doing current events. Like I tried to do a lot of current events. Um, but if you do like universal type jokes that are funny now and forever, right? Like would be funny 1,000 years ago, just as funny as they'll be 1,000 years from now. Even those will wear thin from the performer's standpoint. You'll be like, oh God, I'm doing this material again. Even if you've perfected the routine and it gets super funny, right? Not even super funny maybe, but it always gets good laughs from the group or whatever, the crowd. Um, you yourself will tire of doing it. And then once that happens, then it doesn't work anymore. The magic's gone. Which comment did I miss, Jeff? Let me know. Yeah, that's a good. Okay, now I see your comment, Jeff. Yes, I did miss it. So, yes, that's a good idea. I think that I could do that. I could maybe do some of my old material from. It's been 10 years now, right? I did it from like 2009 to 2013, something like that. So I studied it and did it for about 4 or 5 years, but I actually only did performances for about 2 years. But yeah, I could do some, or I could write some new material like about Potato Head. Potato Head's probably done a lot of stuff, but here's the thing, Jeff. It requires a lot of research and prep time and thinking, and I use all of that energy for my day job. Like the amount of time and prep and stuff that it required to do that and write even fairly decent comedy, that's the energy I'm using to provide, for my family, to earn my salary and keep myself afloat out here. So if I started doing it, I'd have to mitigate it to just a little bit. Because the key thing is, Jeff, being alone and looking at a computer and then just commenting on things, it doesn't generate good comedy. Good comedy is generated from living and interacting with a thriving community of people that are fun and interesting to talk to. It's community and interaction with community that fire up the sparks of the divine creativity and make things fun. I mean, you can do it, you're refining a presentation for an audience on the internet. That's one thing, but it doesn't have that living, tangible, magical element that I seek. Like the reflection of the twinkle in some gal's eye out in the audience. The commiserating in the green room with other comedians before the show. The drive to promote a show and make posters and put them up all over the city and spread the word. You know, all of those elements contribute to the magic. And if you don't have those things, then it's just like, oh God, what are we even doing it for? There's a kind of ennui. It's like it's what this whole thing has really done. It's been a direct attack on community and the destruction of our ability to socialize. if you guys can't see it, man, that's the real drive of this thing, is the destruction of the middle class, the destruction of our pursuit of happiness through community-centered endeavors, and destroying our living social networks because they want to transition us all to these digital social networks. And if you saw how it went at the advent of the internet, everybody was using it to organize and have fun and do free activities, among themselves. And that cuts out the corporate middleman. That cuts out all of those top tier businesses that would be selling you your drinks or whatever, your burger, at really upscaled prices, because now you could organize a picnic style meetup to do your swing dancing and bring a battery charged speaker like I have here and an ice chest full of cold drinks, and you're cutting out $500 or $1,000 from the bar or any other establishment that would have to host that. And they were losing face, and poor people were having fun, and that's what they had to put an end to. This is one of the worst regimes in the history of humanity that we've ever lived under, this current potato head administration.
The doorway, then, of man's mind, this wonderful God has to wait. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. The opening must be on the part of the individual. Man lives in a mind that presses in upon him from all sides with infinite possibilities, with infinite creative power.
Here's the other thing, too. They realized that if they were going to roll out this new digital system of digital dictatorship, of dominance, of full spectrum dominance of humanity, then if we were still moving about and rubbing elbows with each other and hobnobbing, then we would never go for it. So they had to use a Stockholm syndrome gaslighting technique of locking us all down so that we become depressed and we start to fear for our survival, and then that reduces us to the lowest common denominator mentally, so that they can kind of try to tease us out of our holes with, if you want to come out, well, you're going to have to put on the mask and get the, and then have the digital certificate in order to go into the restaurant. And everybody's like, who gives a fuck? We'll just go out and meet in the parks or whatever. And they're like, no, you won't. Those are super spreader events. You have to comply. So they're doing all of this, like raising the gas prices, inflation, and we're under siege is what it is. The human spirit and liberty and justice and the pursuit of happiness, all the great ideals that the USA represents, is under siege by a cabal of miscreants that want our 100% compliance. My basic expression has always been, on your knees, slave. OIKS. I made the OIKS acronym maybe 10 years ago when I saw it coming, because I saw it coming. I mean, I saw it happening here in China, and I knew it would go worldwide. I knew that once China took over the maintenance of the internet, like the tech side of it, Google, Apple, the production of most computer components and so on and so forth, that they would not tolerate American freedoms. And when Crackhead came over here, Potato Head's son, Crackhead, came over here and got 1.4 billion from the Luka Luka PP guys, then I knew it was over. I knew that they would use a inflationary tactic of siege on the American people to make them comply. Because these guys, they're not going to tolerate you guys keeping your Second Amendment and your First and Second Amendments. That's not a part of the New World Order. I think I answered this question already. Yeah, I must be kind of far behind on the chat, guys. Let me read the chat and get right back to you.
Fine urge of infinite love crowds itself upon him and awaits his recognition. Being the image of this power, his thought also must be the word or cause it life. At the center of his being is all the power that he will need on the path of his unfoldment. All the mind that man has is as much of this infinite mind as he allows to flow through him. We have often thought of God as far off, and of man as being separate from all the good. And now we are coming to see that God and man are one, and that one is simply awaiting man's recognition, that he may spring into being and become to man all that he could wish or want. As the Father has inherent life.
I could, Jeff, and let me tell you a little more about the story. Okay, so when we were doing that, one of the really fun angles about it, I want to talk a little bit about ROI. You guys know it's a financial term that means return on investment. So the amount of time and energy and material resources that you put into an endeavor should profit and benefit you with a return, right? A savvy businessman isn't going to invest time, energy, and material resources into something that's not providing a return, because then you're just wasting your time, right? And that's what life is made of. It's made of time. And so you have to prioritize. But anyway, when I was doing stand-up, I would film all of my stand-up and then put it on. Will Ferrell had a website called Funny or Die. So we're talking circa 2011. And I was big on Funny or Die. And I was doing the whole Frank Monday routine on Funny or Die. And I uploaded over 200 independent stand-up routines, all of the stand-up routines I had done, about 200 of them in like a little over 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. And they wouldn't get many views, right? It was like YouTube, but for comedy. And instead of thumbs up or thumbs down, you would click on the funny or die. You would click funny if you thought their video was funny, and you would click die if you thought they were full of shit. And I loved it. It was perfect. And all of the guys in open mic, or not all of them, but a few of them, Nico Martinez, Toby Jarman, Ryan Haw, who else? God, I can't remember one of my best mates' names that was in it. Anyway, to finish the point, independent, the Funny or Die website by Will Ferrell, Galifianakis Between Two Ferns, right? For years, they were fueled by creator content. They were powered by creator content. People were interacting with the website because it was based on creator content. So you would upload a video, get feedback from your circle, and then it would be fun times, right? I think it was 2013, they purged all user created content. They removed all of it. They chose a few individuals from the community that they wanted to promote, and they allowed them to have premium accounts, like blue check mark accounts. But 90% of everything else, in fact, I think now there's no user created content. I think Funny or Die is dead, right? But they gave me 24 hours to download my content, and then it was lost forever. So like near 200 videos of unique stand-up routines that I had uploaded gruelingly to their website over like nearly 3 years of work was disappeared in a single night. And I was only able to download like 4 or 5 of my routines. Like I tried to choose the best ones, but I couldn't go through it all, 200 plus videos and live shows. And all of that content was lost. And I never backed it up to a hard drive because it's just, it's a big deal. I guess I should be more professional in the future and buy some hard drives, buy like 10 terabytes of hard drives and back all my shit up. But I've never really looked at it that way. I've looked at it as being somewhat ephemeral, and you have to be willing to let go of your work sometimes. So here's the thing. I knew that they weren't going to go in the direction of democracy because Funny or Die already operated as a democratic process. If people thought your shit was funny, they clicked funny and you got upvoted. And even like my comedy stuff, it had like near 90% funny up clicks and it never got promoted. However, Funny or Die website with Will Ferrell made a original TV series and used a black guy and called it Black Monday. And they based his entire persona on my material. So I got ripped off. They ripped off my intellectual property. They used it. They made an entire TV series out of it. They called it Black Monday. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't call him Frank Monday. That's how directly they stole my routine. And so all of the intellectual property that I developed over like 5 years of writing material and developing the tics and the gesticulations of the Frank Monday character got ripped off by Will Ferrell, and he made a TV show out of it. It wasn't successful. The black guy's not as good of an actor as I am, and it failed ultimately, and their website failed. But I knew the direction things were going, and I knew that the reason they're allowing user-created content to be uploaded to their sites is because they're picking through the best ideas and then taking them. And then when they prepare their premiere ideas based on stealing, right, plagiarizing your material, then they just kick all of you off the website. And so in 2019, I figured that YouTube would go in that direction. It was around, I think it was towards the end of 2018 that I was predicting the downfall of YouTube, that they would do a complete purge and purge all user created content. I have copious amounts of comments on Styx Hexenhammer's videos where I'm telling him this. I'm like, your days are numbered, bro. They're going to purge everyone. And he didn't believe it. And it didn't happen. But I think they keep some of these sites open so that they can continue to gather the creative new ideas of the zeitgeist. So the main point is, Jeff, is there's no return on investment, and all of your ideas will ultimately be plagiarized by the guys who are already in the system, the corporate shills, the hacks. And so why would you do that? Why would you just openly give away your creativity? I mean, I've never necessarily been looking to get paid for this. I do it for community, but at the same time, I don't want to be constantly stabbed in the back and ripped off by other people. I find that to be a crock of shit. Chris, you're 100% accurate right there. Let me catch up with the chat again, guys. I'll read through.
Himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life within himself. It could not be otherwise. We are all in mind, and mind is always creating for us as we think. And as we are thinking creatures, always thinking, our happiness depends upon our thought. Let us consider the law of our life. The law of our lives. Spirit creates through law. The law is always mind in action. Mind cannot act unless intelligence sets it in motion. In the great universal mind, man is a center of intelligence, and every time he thinks, he sets mind into action. What is the activity of this mind in relation to man's thought?
No, yeah, I love it too, Jeff. I love interacting with the community and doing fun stuff and talking to you guys and stuff. And I could write a little material, and I probably will. But so Chris says you're very demanding, Jeff. But no, Chris, I guess you should be grateful to Jeff, because Jeff, Monsieur Tiedrick, he came to me at a time when Karen had just given me a strike for speaking my mind. And I had framed the entire thing saying, this is my opinion, this is satire. But then I laid it out, and I said a few combination of words that Giza Death Star, J.P. Farrell, Joseph Philip Farrell, also, I was echoing some things that he had said, but I was adding my own commentary and thoughts and expanding on it. And when I got that strike for doing that, it was a really simple video, and I thought it was highly intellectual and an expression, a deep expression of a truth that I felt. I got a community strike, and I appealed it, and they wouldn't remove it. And so Um, Jeff had come to me at that time, at one of my lowest times here on YouTube, where I was ready to just to completely give up. I think I was on a week, either a week or a 2 week cooldown with the FMR channel, the other one that's on a cooldown right now. And I was ready to just throw in the towel and be like, fuck it, I'm done. There's no return on investment. And then I did the buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday, and Jeff went over there and just unloaded. He's like, boom, boom, boom. He bought me like 10 coffees or something. And he's like, Frank, you need to keep doing you, and don't let them fucking break your spirit. And it was the only thing that kept me active. Actually, I was really considering just fucking throwing in the towel and giving it up, because the Karens at BoobTube make it so difficult when we're not asking for a lot. I mean, there's no reason why people shouldn't be able to speak their mind and have even just a relative amount of freedom of dissertation. Why should we be so chastised by their ideas? Who's to determine what they say is right? And who it's we were raised in an era of critical thinking and freedom of expression, and that everything should be questioned. And so when we start questioning these narratives, that's entirely our right. And we created these platforms with our contributions. And when they just kick you off and give you 24 hours to grab a few of your videos before they destroy all of your content, it's kind of a bummer. It's very disenchanting. So yeah. So thanks to Jeff for keeping me active. Otherwise, I would have retired probably 2 years ago. About 2 years ago, I was ready to throw in the towel. Yeah, they're absolutely vultures. They totally fucking preyed on all my material. And I watched it and I was like, what the fuck? That's a Black Frank Monday. And they've just totally fucking stole my fucking routine, man. What a bummer. Absolutely a bummer. And I was like, it's great. I think it's funny and interesting, but why didn't they approach me just to do the real deal and be like, hey, well, let's make the Frank Monday show. That would be fun. Because I would have been able to contribute creative intelligence to it that would have made it a hell of a lot of better show. But the problem is cis white male. I'm a cis white male, so I'm not welcome in the New World Order. And I realized that it wasn't, I like, there were some big names in the comedy club scene here in Beijing at the time. And these guys were talent scouting for the intellectual property that would make for funnier shows and shit. And so they're the ones that turned me on to Funny or Die. And I made a huge contribution to that channel. And so did Nico Martinez with the Mexican pizza jokes. And Nico Martinez was one of the funniest motherfuckers that ever showed up in China. And some of his material was plagiarized as well, like stand up, sit down, and lay down, open mic night, right? He came in super drunk one night. He coined that joke. That was his joke. And later on, I think I saw, I can't remember, a black comedian do it. But Nico was a Mexican guy from San Francisco, and he was over here, total fucking cholo, wearing tats and like buttoning up the top of his shirt and just like stereotypical cholo. And me and him hit it off immediately. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, Frank Monday. He's like, you're an LA guy here in this. He's like, you're the only other one. You're the only other living human being in this city that I've met. And I'm like, yeah, man, I know how you feel, brother. I'm like, I know exactly how you feel. That our old school generation of dodging drive-bys and, you know, watching your back for the Crips and the Bloods and the 18th Street Latinos, and like really ghetto gangster culture where like we had honor and dignity. I mean, you wouldn't do a drive-by just because, you know, like everything fell apart, man. The US has been totally fucking destroyed. The culture of the US has just been shit all over by this whole new potato head regime, man. Uh, It had a bit of a resurgence from 2016 to 2020, but that was the death nail. That was the boa constrictor releasing before the kill blow. But yeah, so Pro says money has never really been a reward for me. I've done a lot of animation corporations. The only thanks you get is money. It's meaningless. Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. That my creative endeavors were never meant for generating profit either. And I only started mentioning the ROI is because um, my wife instilled that mentality in me. I did so much pro bono work, like with my comedy and swing dance and kung fu in the park and stuff like that. Is she was the one. She's like, we got to save for our college, for our kids' college and stuff. And she's like, all that time you use to have fun and create, obviously beautiful creative arts type stuff, performance arts. She's like, it's basically useless. And she's like, why aren't you making training packages for English teaching companies that, will get you passive income for the rest of your life? And, getting royalties for your intellectual property. And she's a business major. My wife's MBA, and she got her Master of Business Administration at the University of Massachusetts. That's where I met her. Um, and I still believe in the pro bono, the idea of doing it from a heart-centered reality. But here's the problem. The demons out there on the internet, the Ahrimanic spirits, they love that and they take it and they profit from it. So the problem is, here's the problem. We're being preyed upon. And that's why our society has fallen apart, because we've allowed ourselves to be preyed upon in this way, and for really good ideas to be usurped from us. And so our one of our first responsibilities is to maintain the sovereignty over our own things. And so we need those same protections. They imagine if you took someone else's material, one of those big shots, and then tried to use it on your platform, you would be sued from every angle by a full house of lawyers. I don't disagree with you guys. You guys know that I'm a very community-centered guy, and I'm not an e-beggar, and I wasn't doing it for e-begging purposes. But the problem I saw is that you're doing all that hard work, and the return is the pleasure, yeah, and being in the club and stuff like that, and that's all fine and dandy. But then you're fueling an industry that doesn't have your best interest at heart. I think I stated it recently in a transmission, I think yesterday or something. No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Jeff. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not trying to be a money. You guys got to realize that you're talking to a guy that did pro bono for nearly 20 years, and it wasn't everything I did was for free, and it wasn't ever about making money for me, because you really can't create beautiful art when you're concerned about the financing. But at the same time, when you're throwing it out there and then they're shitting all over it or taking it and plagiarizing it, then you find there's a problem with it. Then you've got a problem. That's all they do in all the fields they have infiltrated. I've seen my thoughts on UFOs regurgitated by Lou Elizondo. Yeah, I know it, man. They keep an eye on the zeitgeist of the transmission, and they do hone in and isolate those individuals that come up with good ideas. It's one of the reasons. Like, I remember that one CGI vid you did that got like millions of views, but then at the same time, your subs never went above like a couple of hundred, and so they will marginalize because they have the intention of taking that and using it in other areas where they'll benefit from it. And as long as they keep you marginalized as a user and a contributor, then you can never fight back because you don't have a platform on with which to fight back. That's why I see channels of guys out there talking shit that within 3 months have 10,000 subs, and they're not doing anything special. Their content isn't valuable in any way, but they're shilling for the system, and so they're not marginalized and they're promoted, and somehow they're algorithmically getting promoted. Like look at Styx Hexenhammer. He's I don't find him to be a shill. I find him to be a bit of a fence sitter, and he's an entertaining guy to listen to. But when this whole lockdown went on, he stalled out at 500,000. He was right around 300 to 400,000, but he was rising rapidly, and they cut him off. They stalled him out, which it took him 10 years to get to that level, and he's been on here for a long time. But and he's a workhorse. He makes 3 videos a day, or 3 or 4. And now he's spread out. He's on Alt Tech. He's over on Rumble and BitChute and all the other. But they do the same thing, man. Everyone's like, oh yeah, go to Rumble, go to BitChute, go to Odyssey. I did. I opened up on all of them. And within just a couple of weeks, I realized that they were playing the same game. They were doing just as much censorship, just as much throttling. That it's one corporate system. People miss the point so much. The Department of a Harmonious Society came out and they said, we intend to have full spectrum dominance by 2020. And they announced this back in like 2015. They said, we will have full spectrum dominance of the internet by 2020. And they said, we'll have full spectrum dominance of society by 2025. So people are missing that they announced these things. That means it was all unified under one system by 2020, at the end of 2019, with the games they played, right? And then the March mandates. Every year there's been a new March mandates. They've already achieved full, people miss, they miss it, man. Full spectrum dominance of every channel, every platform, every microphone, every camera, globally. It's like, what part of 100% dominance do you miss? I mean, it's not 99.9. There's not a single platform slipping through. There aren't private channels slipping through. Like the guy over at We Are Change, he's like, yeah, join me on my own membership channel and we can talk about more, private things, and we can really get into the ideas. It's like, no, you can't. It's full spectrum dominance. It doesn't matter if you have a private channel, and you're doing it on OnlyFans or something. You're still being censored. You're still being marginalized. You're still being throttled. You're still under the same system of the New World Order. There is nothing slipping through the cracks. Don't fucking shit yourself. But they like to say, they like to think and moan and cry, and there's what was it? Truth Stream Media, was that Mr. T's thing?
It has to be one of mental correspondence. That is, mind has to reflect whatever thought it casts into it. Wonderful as universal mind is, it has no choice but to create whatever thought is given it. If it could contradict that thought, it would not be a unit, since this would be recognizing something outside itself. This is a point in truth which should not be overlooked. The one mind knows only its own ability to make whatever is given it. It sees no other power and never analyzes or dissects. It simply knows, and the reason why people do not understand this is that they have not realized what mind is. The ordinary individual thinks of mind only from the limitation of his own environment. The concept he has of mind is the concept of his own thinking, which is,
like I said, he stimulates me to go live a lot more than I probably would, because like he said, write some comedy on the weekends, and I'll put a little thought into it, but pretty much like getting up super early. The reason I do that is to go to work, and the reason I was doing the live drive so regularly is because I got an hour in the car on the way to the office just to shoot the shit, and I realized that driving to work for an hour was pretty fucking boring, even if I'm listening to the radio. But once I started talking and getting involved with like a community spread message, then like the time from leaving the house to getting to work was like apotheum. It was time dilation. It's when you're, this is a very truthful statement. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And the opposite holds true when you're not having a good time and you're like overthinking it and you're like, oh God, I got to drive. It takes me an hour to get to fucking the academy, first thing in the morning, 6 a.m. with all this AI traffic out here. You guys know the rigmarole, all this assholes and idiots out here on the road. Then it was a real drag, that's why you call it stuff like the morning grind, and the evening drag, you know. But as soon as you start streaming live and talking to people and cutting up and having a little bit of fun, bam, it makes it, that's apotheum, that's time dilation. It makes it pass by in the flash of an eye. You realize that an hour wasn't long enough. You should have had a 2-hour drive. That way you really could have, developed the idea. And so, yeah, like I said, Jeff, you've kept me on here, really. Guys like you and Chris, you as well. And David Guatemala out there, man, coming in with the Nimitz class battleship, 18-inch cannons, a mile off the shores of Hiroshima, Iwo Jima, and just blasting them out of their rat holes. So it reinvigorated me, put the lead back in my pencil to see that there were people in the community like Monsieur Tiedrick and you, Chris, that I could actually connect with. Because prior to that, hell, I had done 200, 300 videos here on YouTube I couldn't even break 100 subs, even though I was putting like 10, 12 hours of production value into a video. I mean, they're not great. I've never been you can't make really great videos with just one guy and a cell phone. Like you guys saw that Frank Monday versus the Challenger with Troy called me the other day. You guys remember my Frank Monday versus the Challenger with Troy's team? He called me like 2 days ago and he's like, Frank, we got to do some more Challenger videos. And he's big news now. Like he has his own kung fu stunt work studio, and he was on IP Man. He's worked with Donnie Yen. He's done all of the top grossing films here in China. He organizes and trains the talent of the guys who do the wire work and everything. And he's always picking my brain. I've got him here on my communication thing. And he's like, he's like, do you know some locations, some ghetto locations where we can shoot a sequel to Frank Monday versus the Challenger? You guys remember that's one of my little 5-minute mini movies. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, man. Let's work that out. But they've closed down society. You guys got to remember, we've been in heavy lockdown for going on 3 years now. Like even you can't even go in the subway anymore. Like they shut down almost all the lines on the subway. You can't just go out and hail a taxi cab. I mean, I've got my own car now. Back when I worked with Troy originally, I mean, hell, how long ago was that? God, that was like nearly 10 years ago now that we did that. But it was a free and open society back then. You could ride the subway anywhere. You could ride around on your motorcycle with huge boxes full of camera equipment. And we used like Sony T5s or something to shoot that. And we did it all in 2 days. We shot the whole thing at Wild Cherry, and it took us about 12 or 15 hours, a full day of shooting. And then we spent another day doing all the editing and color correction back at his place. And so a 5-minute presentation took us 2 to 3 solid days of working on it in order to produce it. So it shows you the level of commitment that's required. But think about that. You do that times 10. That means we could make a feature-length movie of that quality, of the Frank Monday quality. We could do that in probably 6 weeks, make a feature-length film. I'll tell you guys about another film crew that does a similar type thing, but they're in New Zealand. It's you guys might know them, Viva La Dirt League. You guys know Viva La Dirt League. I won't support them anymore because they're assholes. I tried to make a few jokes and poke at them a little bit, and they shut me down right away. I think they, in fact, banned me from their channel. And their video work is really good, and their presentation is great. I'm like, you guys are grifting, and they got really angry at me. Like, I got direct feedback from one of the guys on their film crew, and so when it becomes toxic like that, like when you can't accept critical feedback, even that's trying to be obviously satirical and funny, it's like, well, fuck you then. I mean, like the Frank Monday videos that we did, and some of them you guys haven't seen because I haven't put them on YouTube. I told Troy I wouldn't because he uses them for his own internal training and what else? We did a bunch of film work, man. When my kids were small and like I could get out occasionally, escape, then I love Troy, man. Troy's one of the best people on the planet. But I'd love to get busy with Troy again. The thing is, they've made it almost impossible for anybody outside of like the institution that's piling up around us, the government. They've made it almost impossible for us even to move around anymore, even talk to each other. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. To talk a little bit about what we were talking about on Instagram earlier, Chris, I want to touch on that just a bit. If you guys remember, you tuned in last week for the Sunday transmission out of the temple, Sabbath Sundays, right? And I set some homework that I wanted you guys to read, The Haunter of the Dark. And then me and you talked a little bit about, I think we talked about it, either maybe we talked about it live, I can't remember. But I had mentioned the fact that Philip K. Dick was talking about how when you write fiction, that fiction will rapidly become your reality, like it can. Or he discovered that it took time. There was an apotheon, a time dilation before the fiction that he wrote appeared in his reality. And he didn't realize it as early as I did. I realized that at about 15 years old, that you could write magic into reality. You can, when you're in the meditative state and you're doing Bi Shen or spirit writing, you can create reality through writing short stories. Anyway, I had shared with you guys one of the chapters from, I'm not even going to say the title of the book anymore because you guys know that I like to do some short story writing. And so I had written a piece and I read it to you guys. And I think, Chris, you commented on it and said, hey, that sounds pretty good, like pretty good, decent writing. It's only 3 or 4 paragraphs, but a part of it included a violent thunderstorm. And so that was last Sunday. And I had kind of been thinking about it and developing that chapter, putting more into it because I'm using like Lemurian and Atlantean style tech. And there's like some elusive wizards, here in the capital, Twilight Zone, Old Peking, and they're battling against the forces of darkness that are mounting. But one of the paragraphs, or a couple of the paragraphs in there, concerned this violent thunderstorm with lightning and wind and all of this, right? And maybe it's just because it's that time of year when there are thunderstorms. But last night, the sky opened up, man, and there was thunder rumbling through the house and giant flashes of lightning in the sky. And so coincidence, right? I write a few paragraphs earlier in the week. And then, so I was doing some writing on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then yesterday was Friday, 2 days, exactly 2 days. From the time I wrote the thunderstorm into my chapter to when a violent thunderstorm appeared here was exactly 2 days. 48 hours is how long it took the universe to respond to my writing. So that just shows you I'm not fucking around when I tell you guys this stuff. The magical mind, the creative mind is, and the universe is responsive and
limited. We are surrounded by an all-seeing, all-knowing mind, which is one and runs through all. The belief in the dual mind has destroyed practically all philosophies and religions of the ages, and will continue to do so until the world comes to see that there is but one. Whatever name is given it, there is but one. It is this one that creates for us whatever we believe. Our thought operative through this one produces all our affairs. We are all centers in this mind, centers of creative thought activity. There is nothing which appears in the manifest universe other than an objectified thought, whether it be a bump on your head, a growth on your foot, or a planet. It could not be there were it not made out of mind, for mind is all there is to make anything.
It's interesting you should mention that, Jeff. I guess I'm trying to keep up with the chat and at the same time juggle ideas. So thanks for sticking with me. We're at the top of the second hour, so I'll do a channel update. This is the Live Jive archive. We're doing keys to opening the temple here at Twilight Zone Old Peking in the Central Kingdom of Celestial Dragon. Welcome, warrior, wizard, wayfarer, and wanderer alike, wherever you may be, whoever you may be, and whenever you may be. We're doing good magic today. We've got the dark mirror open with the electrified etheric energy, and we're transmitting through all directions and dimensions in all space and time, now and always. So provided that the draconian underdwelling overlords of miasma and onerous dissolution don't get their claws into us, we should be preserved for all time in the etheric. I wanted to catch up with the chat here a little bit. Jeff asks, Frank, are you going to be on Paula Asteria's show, Apollo's Odyssey? I would love to be. I would love to be on Apollo's show. In fact, our paths almost crossed. Like, she knows I'm a fan of hers, and she was only at 1,000 subs when I started watching her live shows and trying to give her a little bit of encouragement. And she would respond. She would click on and put your message in the chat and stuff like I do, right? Under 1,000 subs. And now I think she might be at or above 1,000, above 10,000 now. So she's starting to come into her own oats. But I really wanted to see Dark Journalist interview her. I think that's like Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedy, you know, that's like Camelot with the return of Marilyn, because she's like a redheaded Marilyn, man. She's a firecracker of a gal. She doesn't have as much of a radio or TV personality as she could, because she's a little bit maybe too young and she hasn't fully come into her own yet. But I definitely support her, and I think she's cute. So yeah, I would love to be on her show. Oh, the thing was, Occult Priestess had invited me on and scheduled me on, and then bumped me because she got someone more prestigious than me to come on her show. And she's like, yeah, you can still come and talk. She's like, but I got these other two guys that they're bigger. They got like hundreds of thousands of subs in the UFO community. And I'm like, nah, just do your thing, whatever. And because I don't like being bumped. But I should have done it, because that guy that was on her show, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was on Occult Priestess. And then the next week, he was on Paula Asteria. And so had I went ahead and went on with Apollo and then crossed paths with that other guy. And my biggest problem is that I'll call a spade a spade. And if it feels like the claim isn't substantiated with sufficient evidence, at least even anecdotal, and it fails to meet up to the requisite of reason and logic, and if there's a obvious logical fallacy in it, then I'm going to call a spade, and people don't like that. I do, though. I like occasionally, if you know, not occasionally, but whenever, if I'm not hitting towards truth and I make mistakes, then call me out on it. By all means, call a spade when you see one. I'm still trying to catch up with the chat, guys. This chat's moving faster than I can keep up with. There's like 2,000 people out in the ideas room today. Oh, I mean 2. Did I say 2,000? I always have a problem with numbers. Not 2,000? How about 2? 2 of the best people on the planet, though. Monsieur Tiedrick and Chris A., master of the digital realm. I'm looking forward to you, what's the word? Chris, I'm looking forward to when you tell me about the project you want me to help you work on. Once that happens, then we'll be talking about firecrackers.
Whatever is made out of it. Nothing exists or can exist without a source from which it springs. We are not dealing with a negative as well.
Yeah. Funny thing about that, Jeff, is no, Troy is a top-notch fighter, man. He's about 10 years younger than me. And back then, before he had really started to come into his own, um, I'm a scrappier street fighter. And yeah, if push came to shove, but he's a guy I love, and we just did it for fun. And the whole point of the Challenger series is that he came out of the same school that Jet Li came out of. Him and Jet Li trained in the same school. And he's friends with like Jet Li's trainer. And the during the Nixon administration, three people performed wushu or kung fu in the Rose Garden when Chairman Mao and Nixon started creating the China-US alliance of total global enslavement, when they orchestrated that whole thing. So we're talking like 60 years ago now, right? Jet Li and two other kung fu kids, like 10, 11 years old, performed wushu in the Rose Garden for the Nixon administration. And it was two boys and one girl, a trio. You can still find the video here on YouTube. Just look it up, Kung Fu in the Rose Garden or whatever with Nixon. One of them was Jet Li, and another one was Chen Hua or Chen Yanhua, a Chinese little girl. Troy's team is friends with her from the same kung fu school here in Beijing, Shichahai, and I got to meet her and shake hands and train with her for like 4 or 5 different times, and we did some internal kung fu videos. And I mean, what a magical experience! I actually sat at the table with Jet Li and auditioned to try to be the figurehead for his line of clothing at Adidas. He opened an office here right next to me in Beijing CBD at the Guomao Central Business District. And he came back over here because he's a Beijinger. This is his hometown. But he didn't go with me. He went with another guy. And I was like, you're fucking blowing it, bro. The dude he chose had zero personality. And if he would have chose Frank Monday to head up the Taiji Adidas Ifu line, clothing line here in Beijing, it would have been fucking stellar, man. Because I'm not going to tell you all the ideas I have for it, but it was going to be such a wonderful thing. And a lot of it came out of my wishing for that type of thing to happen. And turns out he was a bit of a disappointment, kind of a dick. But those guys, once they get into business and they get, like you said, entirely motivated by ROI, they don't see the creative fire anymore. It could be right in front of them, sparkling bright, and they just don't see it. Like, one of the problems they had with me are my teeth aren't straight. And he's like, smile. And he's like, nah, man, your teeth aren't straight. I'm like, all right, fuck it, whatever, My teeth look like Patricia Arquette's. So one of the greatest Quentin Tarantino films, I believe it was Quentin Tarantino, wasn't it? True Romance. Patricia Arquette, she gives the story during an interview. People used to always tell her, why don't you get your teeth fixed? And she's like, why don't you fuck off? It's a part of the idiosyncrasy and the reality of being human. We don't all have straight teeth, straight, perfect Hollywood teeth, And when everybody's got straight, perfect Hollywood teeth, you see where it goes. It's just Disneyland Marvel. I mean, not every movie should look like that. Some movies and products and shit should be gritty and appeal to the grassroots. Anyway, just to highlight that, I willingly let Troy defeat me, Monsieur Tiedrick. Yeah. Here's the real statement right there, Chris. You've hit to the heart of the thing. The most powerful magic is through a pure heart of seeking truth. And I've got a story about that affecting reality too, but it's nuts. Yeah, I know. I was reading your Instagram transmissions, Chris, and you don't sound nutty at all, man. You sound like you're piercing the veil and you're seeing beyond the illusion. Lovecraft writes in, I forget which story, It might be whisper and darkness, but he says what? No, it's the key to the silver gate. Um, he says what the ordinary people, what the ordinary folk view as reality and tangible is in fact illusion and fantasy, and what the mystics view as what other people think that the mystics view as fantasy and illusion is actually the reality and reality of manifestation and stuff. So
Positive power, not two powers, but one. A power that sees neither good nor evil as we see it. It knows only that it is all, and since it is all, it creates whatever is given it. From our limited standpoint, we often think of good and evil, not realizing that, as yet, we do not know the one from the other. What we call good today, we may call evil tomorrow, and what we think to be evil today, we may tomorrow proclaim as the greatest good we have ever known. Not so with the universal power of mind. It sees only itself and its infinite ability to create. To the thinking person, this will mean much. He will see that he is no longer living in a limited universe, a world of powers, but that
yeah, she bumped me, Jeff. She treated me like chopped liver. That's right. And the reason it kind of pissed me off is because a couple of weeks prior, I had gone on her show and I read a piece of my original writing. And I was like, damn, I didn't even know it was that good. And it was out of one of my journals. And I looked back on it later on and I listened to me reading it live on her show. And I was like, God damn, that was poetry right there. And it was really, really good. And I had written it like maybe a year ago. I just randomly pulled it out of one of my journals and read it. And um, it was master level literature. And it's just a short piece, maybe 300, 400 words, something like that. And it really disenchanted me when she bumped me because we had been planning it for a little bit over a week. And I had organized my schedule. Like I had canceled things that I was otherwise going to do that morning. And I had freed up like a 5 hour block of time in order to be able to do that with her. And I prepared copious amounts of notes and talking points. And she bumped me. And I was like, fuck, that sucks. So I think she's got something like 2,000 subs. So it's not like she's a huge platform to springboard off of, you know, not like being on DJ's show or something. DJ's got 100,000 subs. But here's the thing, Jeff, nobody's really interested in finding out the truth. It's like they talk about Shanghai or whatever in China and stuff like that, but they're not even trying to get a grassroots, real working class man that's been over here for 20 years. Nobody's shown any interest. Like Chris Chappell does China Uncensored, and he constantly makes mistakes and erroneously vilifies certain things that are going on in China. And in 4 months now, it's been 3 months that Beijing's been on lockdown, and he's never addressed the issue. He won't even mention it. And I constantly am on his chats, not his chats, his comment section, and telling him, and I'm like, Chris, why won't you mention the fact that the entire fucking nation's on lockdown, not just Shanghai? And he totally ignores me. So there are certain people, they act like they're uncovering truth and stuff, but then they won't even like take the leads from genuine living people who are in the thick of it. You know, I've been over here in the belly of the beast for 22 years now, nearly. So once you figure that out, lie to me once, shame on you. Lie to me twice, shame on me. Which above comment am I missing? Let me check, Monsieur Tiedrick. Oh, J. Allen Hynek? That name sounds familiar, but I don't really know anything about him. Is this the comment you're referring to, Jeff? Wow. Wow. Yeah, it turns out she's got her head up her ass. Well, she's in Hollywood and she thinks that she's connected to some big shots. But We had a couple of lovely conversations. I think she's an Aquarius, and so she's an air sign, and air and water usually don't get along very well. But I sent Miss Mary Moon to her channel, and she did an astrology program with her, and she did exactly what she said other people do. She said that she has promoted people in the past, and then they'll cut her off and not promote her. And then so I promoted her, right? And then she cut me off, and not only bumped me, but then like you said, doesn't respond to you and shit. It's like, fuck, you're a liar. You're absolutely a liar. So that's kind of a bummer. And like I said, it's like when you're doing it for fun and love and creativity and heart-centered awareness, and then you find these people who are pretending to do that and then actually turn out to be treacherous snakes in the grass. It's like, well, then you have to expose them immediately, or they'll expose themselves. What a bummer, though. I'm sorry to hear that, Jeff. I'm sorry I sent you there. I always thought my intention was that if you mix with these people and you interview them and then be interviewed by them, then it's like, let's see the direction Simon goes with this latest interview. I thought we did a pretty good interview, and I'll edit it up and put it on the FM radio channel later once it's if it ever makes its through its certain dark period right now. But provided that it does, then it's unlisted right now. It's the one we did yesterday, right? Because it's a little bit controversial, definitely. And we'll see if he takes off, if he does the same sort of shit, all fun and games until they get some momentum, and then they just cut tail and run. Is that the comment you were talking about, Jeff? The where is it? The J. Allen Hynek? Sounds familiar, man. I'll have to look into it. I can't remember. You can tell me what he's all about, though, if you want. Or was it this one? The fact that she treated me like chopped liver. I kind of am chopped liver. You know me. I hang out in my robe and I don't shave. But if someone's coming on the show, I'll definitely wash my face and put on a hat, like I did with Simon yesterday. So I'll definitely try to up my game if I'm getting some banter back and forth with a live call in. I find that format to be fun. Did you guys like that? Did you think that was a good format to do the interview format? I don't think me and Simon necessarily agree on everything, but I don't think that we should. I don't have to agree with people, and I don't have to have people agree with me. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. Agree to disagree and then try to push it forward. I think you nailed it right there, Jeff. And when she realized that the Frank Money channel would be throttled in perpetuity with 1,000 videos and only 200 followers, she knew I wasn't going anywhere. DJ's kind of, I think, feeling a little bit chided by me too, because I launched a little bit of an attack on Gigi Young, because I just gotta call it like I see it. I think Gigi Young's full of shit, honestly. That's just my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. Why is everyone so chagrined when you have an opinion? Yeah. And I think that's one of the big troubles, Chris, is that these people haven't fully integrated their shadow, their ego, their anima, and their self. And I think I achieved some pretty good integration with that type of thing early on. That embrace the ego, make it one of your personas. I mean, what is Frank Monday other than the ego of some individual, the fictional creation of a talking head on YouTube at this point? It used to be a guy that did the Joker. I could have done the Joker performance too. That they were copying my material with the Joker too. I mean, I saw a lot of, and it's just reflections from the etheric. You know, a lot of us have that intent, but you got to embrace the ego. The ego is a part of your virtue. You know, if you're gonna smoke that cigarette, smoke it like fucking Dean Martin. Smoke it like Johnny Depp. You know, they're archetypes. Okay, so Chris is and you know, like Monsieur Tiedrick, he's Charlemagne. There's no goddamn reason why he shouldn't be Charlemagne. And when he's having his whiskey, he can flaunt it. And the gators are down there, you know, below his deck, snapping at him and twitching their tails. And he's like, "You're not coming up here, alligator. I'm fucking Charlemagne, you know. I'm Monsieur Tiedrick. I have a glass of Maker's Mark and a Cuban cigar. You're not going to get me, Mr. Alligator." And the alligator lives his virtue. You know, you step down there in the swamp, he certainly is going to take a bite out of you. So Alan Hynek was an American astronomer, professor, and ufologist. He is perhaps best remembered for his UFO research. Okay, I like UFO guys. You guys know that Richard Dolan, Dick Tracy. Richard, right? Dick is short for Richard, and then his wife Tracy. So I just call him Dick Tracy. So Dick Tracy, they're some of my favorite people. I don't know Alan Hynek, though. I'll have to research him if he's important. Alan Hynek acted as a scientific advisor to UFO studies undertaken by the U.S. Air Force under 3 projects: Project Sign, Project Grudge, and Project Blue Book. Okay, Blue Book. My dad told me about Blue Book when I was like maybe 12 or 13. I think my dad had something to do with Blue Book, you know, naval intelligence there in Los Angeles. He was my dad was a big shot at Paramount Pictures in the early days. The CEO of Paramount, I think he's still CEO. He was one of my dad's best friends. So I've definitely got connections to a very dark, high-powered world. But thank God my father sought to protect me from any of the horse shit. Yes, I'm familiar with Project Blue Book. I'd have to gather my thoughts on that because I don't want to misrepresent anything that I may or may not suspect about Blue Book. I'm with Dick Dolan on it, though. I think they did a pretty good job with the TV show. But I think the main point of the TV show was to rewrite history. And so now you do a Google search on Project Blue Book, you don't get any of the old information or white papers or any direction towards the researchers who actually investigated it while it was happening. Instead, you just get the TV show that they made. That's how they're rewriting history. They're taking some of these key things. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do an Operation Crossroads at some point to talk about Abel Baker and the nuclear program back in the 1940s. They did one for the Manhattan Project, right? So now if you try to search information on the Manhattan Project, all you'll get is like Internet Movie Database returns on Google or Wikipedia. So those are two, like I said, 100% full spectrum dominance. Which part of 100% full spectrum dominance are you questioning? That our timeline of genuine research and freedom of thinking and critical thinking has been eradicated in the New World Order. Unless something drastic happens to change the rule of the Dark Celestials right now, it's done, man. We will all be ferreted out eventually as insurgents and sent off to the liquidation camps and maybe replaced by clones. I don't know. Maybe that's why they're so hard and heavy gathering all of the DNA, like daily testing. What is that? Why do you need to daily swab people? So Hynek was represented as a character. He filmed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was a white-haired, bearded guy with a pipe at the end. Okay, that was a Spielberg. Was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, was that Steven Spielberg or George Lucas? I think that was Spielberg. Another one of the Bergs. All right. Oh, you guys know why Carrie Fisher disappeared, don't you? Did you see the way she talked at one of the Academy Awards and like calling out George Lucas? Oh, I think she was going to reveal some big stuff. Like her, Michael Jackson, who are some other recent ones? Whitney Houston, all mysteriously dying of drug overdoses. Yeah. The UEUs. The UEUs are fleeing the ship. Imagine getting Epstein's playbook. Jizz. What was that gal's name? Maxine Jizz. Imagine getting Jizz's playbook with all those Bergs and Steens and oh god, what a mess. Oh, he coined the term Close Encounter of the Third Kind. He was even on the set. Okay, it was Spielberg. Groom Lake, is that an Area 51 or Area 52? I think you guys are referencing uranium 225 or something, or 152. Well, it was the guy who did the hydrogen, like you could run your car off of water. What was that guy's name? Yeah, she showed up drunk one time and she was running her mouth, and I was listening to her and I was like, oh my God. And Lucas looked so uncomfortable. And then, like, within a couple of weeks, she's dead. And I'm like, wait a goddamn minute. She was ready to write her memoirs. And then, someone slipped her a Mickey. But yeah, Carrie was about to unload, and they don't want that. They don't want anything from that era being revealed publicly. So Carrie didn't kill herself. Epstein didn't kill himself, right? They're just memes at this point. Like Miss Willery Linton's always says, what does it matter now anyway? It does matter. It matters to some people. It matters to, but the truth is that it never will matter, man. They've already taken over. There's no way any of these people will ever be brought to justice. Sadly, the war has been lost. Potato Head Joe's about to eradicate the Constitution entirely. That's why they're calling it the homeland now. They're like, there's no USA anymore. It's the homeland. It's the Heimat, right? It's their Heimat. It's the homeland. Yeah, the space Nazis won, guys. I hope everyone sees that now. Fascism is real. David Adair reveals that 17 years old, he was taken to the secret facilities under Groom Lake, commonly known as Area 51. Mark Hamill turned into an awful guy as an opposite to Fisher. Really sad. Wokeness. Yeah, Fisher, Hamill was somehow cucked, man. He tried to warn the public, like, I think 50 times. Is he really? I don't know what's going on with Hamill. But yeah, like 50 times he said that, what's that guy's name? Roundhead Ruin Johnson. So Roundhead Ruin Johnson was destroying the childhood dream of everyone who enjoyed Star Wars. And Hamill tried to warn everyone. Okay, I don't know what's going on with Marky Mark, Monsieur Hamill anymore, but I think that they did him dirty. I mean, you don't need my critique on the Star Wars debacle, the wokey woke trilogy, Disney trilogy, but there are a lot of guys who talk about it and just point it out directly, and nothing happens to them. Their channels stay up. God, who have I seen recently really tear them apart? The Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, I think. Whoever else does like movie reviews and keeps up with that kind of pop culture angle, they exposed it all very clearly. And then it's like they can do that with, several million subs. But then if I even mention it and speculate on it, bam, they'll shut me down. So there are certain things that rules for thee and not for we is the way it goes. Yeah, just stop caring. That's right. Rules for thee and not for we. To follow up on that though, Moon Strategic, I've got an uncle who works in Hollywood, and he's been on a lot of Super Bowl commercials like Doritos and M&Ms and stuff like that. He's an uncle of mine. You can look him up if you want. He's a pretty famous guy. I won't mention his name here on the channel though, because I don't know if he would necessarily appreciate that. But 2019, I was living with him and my sister out in Southern California, and he did two trailers or independent movie competitions for Star Wars, and he won both of them 2 years in a row. He did Generations and another one, I forget the second one, but his award-winning one was Generations, and he plays the old man in the Star Wars film Generations. It's like 15 minutes long. But Troy's team, I was with Troy's team, and we competed directly with my uncle in Hollywood to do a short film, independent short film for Star Wars to try to promote the new movie for The Force Awakens. And my uncle won with Generations, and we didn't, I don't even think we placed. We might have placed in the top 10, but that's why Troy is contacting me again. There's a new Star Wars film and a new promotional activity. I think it's going on for Obi-Wan, and they're wanting independent filmmakers to make another. I don't know all of the details because they don't reveal all of the details to you. They give you certain aspects of the theme, and then they let you make a product, and then they brand it. And if you win, you won't win unless you're like really well connected, which I'm pretty well connected. So I might be able to tell my uncle, hey, help promote ours as well. But that's only if he doesn't enter the film competition. But his film crew is right here. I've got my name tag from it. I was with Stan Lee right before he died, man. His Comic-Con in LA, that was his last public appearance before he passed away. I could pull up a picture of me smiling with Stan Lee. So Legion M is the name of my uncle's film crew in LA. But yeah, so that's exciting. I would like to work on a new Star. But here's the problem. When you do something like that, you have to toe the line 100%. You can't go, you guys remember I can't talk about it now. I'm just going to ignore it. You have to keep it a secret. If you really want it to be successful, then you can't reveal it on live television, in a chat, on YouTube. So I'll just keep my mouth shut. Yeah, I think this is the most important thing. Yeah. I was hanging out with Stan Lee at Comic-Con. That's not what Stan Lee did his own comic convention, and it was the one right before he died. I don't know if it was 2017 or 2019, but I was at both of them. And he was there, and I think it was his last public appearance before he passed, which I knew it was coming down the line. I saw the ghosts around him. And now I'm a little bit worried about my uncle too, because they get old, man. When they hit like 70, 80, 90, you never know. Like, it can happen so quick. Like, they can be up and jumping around and having a beer with you one day, and then the next day, bam, lights out. And so you really have to love and appreciate your elders so much. Like my mom's in her mid 70s now, and my uncle Jack, probably shouldn't say his name, but Stan Lee was in his 90s. I think he was 92. But I did, man. I embraced the opportunity to see him that one last time before he passed into the abodes of the night. I should pull that picture. It's a really funny. It's probably in my favorites on my phone. Oh, good God. Let me check real quick. Because that was like a really exciting, heartfelt thing for me, being a long time fan. Like, I started collecting comic books early 80s, and we're talking 25 cents a piece, right? And here's me at Hollywood doing my Dean Martin impression. James Dean. That was one of my last visits. That's when I was staying with one of my friends in Franklin Village. Franklin Village is right there in Hollywood. It's right on Hollywood Boulevard. Franklin. It's on Franklin, but it's right there at the base of the Hollywood Hill, the Griffiths Observatory. So my friend's got a little apartment there in Franklin Village, condominium really. He was looking for buying one of the Craftsman A-frame houses, but they locked down the world, man, and they made it. So here's me paying my taxes last time I was home. Yeah, I'm a big comics guy, man. That's Tennessee Courthouse right there. I was there paying land taxes. I like to do that occasionally. Here's the day I was with Master Nee when I cut my hair. Have you guys seen this one? Look at that braid, man. That took me about 12 years to grow. I would braid that braid every single day. It took me about 30 minutes, man, to wash and braid that thing. But that was me, man. I would braid my own hair every day. It made my forearms strong. But I finally cut it. Master Ni Hua Ting made me cut it, man. He said, "You're going to have to cut that thing if you want to go to China." He's like, "That'll get you fucking killed. They will not tolerate you having long hair like that." Here's me in the California desert, Death Valley, with some guys that claimed they turned out to be CIA, but they claimed that they were paranormal investigators. And so I went into the desert with them, and they tried to fuck me over, man, because they knew that I had spiritual power. I was 19 years old and I could summon UFOs. And so they took me out into the desert and they tried to off me, man. They tried to poison me. But they weren't successful. They were CIA. But that's me looking hardcore, man. Kung Fu supercharged on spiritual energy. Back then, my magic at 19 was so powerful, man. I could manifest things at will, like material things, apportation, people, scenarios, light from my hands and shit, man. My brother was even more hardcore than I was, man. Um, you guys want to see a communist shot of me? Here's the day I got my driver's license here in Beijing. I didn't see your comment, Jeff. Let me check it out. There's some hardcore Frank Monday getting the driver's license. Let me see if I can find that Stan Lee picture, guys. I don't see it, man. I don't know where I put it. I never organized the shit on my phone, man. Oh, here's when I was doing a shoot for Adidas at an art district here in China called 798 District. And I made a video that went viral on Chinese media. It was Ghetto Gangster Media Productions was the company name I was using for like TikTok here in China, and it got like 200 million views here locally. And they shut it down. They stole it. They started putting Chinese branding on it, doing advertising. And I tried to reopen my account, and they wouldn't let me have it back. And then I tried to upload it here to YouTube, and they hit me with a copyright strike and took it down, even though it was a video of me and my children and my creation, my editing, all my film work. YouTube gave me a community strike and a copyright violation and took down my video that's now like owned by a Chinese media company. And I thought, why should you work so hard to do things when you can't even protect your own intellectual property? That's why I don't like to put all of my best creative ideas out there anymore. I mean, what's the fucking point? Oh, here's a fun one. This is me with. Did you guys ever watch The Walking Dead? I went over to the guy's house, the actor. I didn't get a picture of him, but I got to put on his leather jacket and the baseball bat that he used in The Walking Dead. So and look at that fucking mask he had in his house in the background. These dudes are some wicked fucking people, man. Look at that. But yeah, what was that guy's name? Neum on Walking Dead. I was at his house with my uncle. Yeah, isn't that fucking crazy? So you guys know there Frank Monday might only have 200 subs, but he gets around and he knows people. Um, Here I am doing production management on the set at the Shaolin Temple. This is the only time a foreign film crew was allowed into the Shaolin Temple. I was working with Choice Team. I was doing PM, project management, and production management. And that's a picture of me there. God, look at how young I looked, man. It was only 10 years ago. But we were the only foreign film crew ever allowed in the Shaolin Temple because Chinese are very strict about the way they allow for presentations of things. So you can check it out. It's Choice Team, the Shaolin Temple. My name's on it. You can see Frank Monday as production manager at the end of the film. So it's a real deal. Here's a photo shoot me and my son did for Burberry. So that's me, Frank Monday, and that's my son there, Dre Bay. And the clothes in that's a fashion shoot we did for Burberry. That was in the China World Trade Tower. The advertisements for the Burberry here. Here's a good ghetto one. This is the kind of shit Jeff likes, I think. Old Jufro Hot Cat Club. But when you do high profile shit, like you can't let the fact that you also do like very ghetto, outspoken shit, you can't let those two cross paths. And ultimately they do. Ultimately they do. Here's a photo shoot I did here in China. This one's exciting. Jeff, you're gonna like this. I took a bunch of InfoWars, Alex Jones InfoWars t-shirts and did a photo shoot with my children for big advertising campaign here in China. You're gonna like this, Jeff. I probably shouldn't reveal this. I'm gonna go ahead and fucking do it. Who cares? And so I took a bunch of InfoWars shirts on this photo shoot, and every time they were doing like the photography and they're like, okay, Frank, get over there with your kids and we want you in the shot, I would put on an InfoWars shirt. And this is a Coleman Camping Supplies here in China, huge advertising campaign. And I'm wearing You're gonna. This is
Low
gonna,
battery. Please charge.
Jesus
Power
Christ.
off.
This is gonna fucking kill you, Jeff. I'm wearing a Tyranny Response Team shirt from InfoWars. Look at this, man. And this became a huge ad campaign here in Beijing. They literally had like a 10-meter tall picture of me at one of the shopping malls here in this very shirt. And Alex Jones would be coming in his pants if he saw that. That hardcore communist China, Beijing, Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking, Frank Monday wearing an InfoWars shirt, like 10-meter tall in one of their most prestigious shopping malls. Every time I went by it, I would laugh so hard. I'd be like, they have no idea. Tyranny Response Team right on my shoulder. InfoWars. I was like, oh, that's so fucking classic. Isn't that fucking hilarious? That's how it works, man. You get the Patriots to infiltrate. Yeah, don't tell him. I'll probably have to delete this out of this live stream, guys. We don't want anybody fucking knowing that. I can't find that picture of Stan Lee, man. What a bummer. Sometimes I think they're deleting pictures off my phone while I'm asleep at night, but probably not. I never fucking organize things correctly on this goddamn thing. Yeah, that's epic, right? You should let AJ know that. I wanted to clip that and like get a picture of me standing, but I didn't know. I couldn't figure out how I could prove it. You know that. Okay, no, I'm checking it out now. Frank, can you explain the Phantom USS Cyclops ship? It disappeared without a trace. Was it paranormal or alien? And did your father have an opinion on the disappearance? I got to be honest with you, Jeff. I don't know anything about that one. I would have to go back down memory lane, and that would require some research. But maybe you can tell me a little bit about it, and I can try to figure out. Here's a good shot of my pops in the early days, man. This was like right after World War II. I don't know if you guys know who he's with there, but I'm not going to tell you if you don't know. I can show you a picture of him with Admiral Nimitz. I think I already showed you that one though, Jeff, of my dad with Admiral Nimitz. Yeah, I think we're kind of meandering off into fucking La La Land though. Let's get back to brass tacks. I don't know the USS Cyclops. I've never heard of that. What year was that? Yeah, don't ever tell anybody that Tyranny Response Team story, right? That would probably get me in trouble. Here's the thing they did though. I noticed when they made the ads, like it was in their books, it was in their material. I can't remember what year that was. Maybe that was like 2016 when Info Warriors were kind of everywhere, and I was putting stickers all over town and stuff. You know, we the people, and yeah, Tyranny Response Team. I had another one of his shirts too. I can't remember, but I took a bunch of like InfoWars shirts. I had made a huge order to the InfoWarriors store, and I got a bunch of beautiful shirts and stickers. And I think I even bought myself a bottle of like, what was that stuff called? Male Superpower or whatever, you know, the hard-on formula that Jones was selling. And I was running around with a hard-on and wearing my InfoWarriors shirts. But I did a big, you know, advertising campaign for the Coleman guys. And we went out to the countryside and we, you know, set up a bunch of tents and shot a bunch of pictures and stuff. But they realized later on, I think, that I was wearing propaganda shirts, you know. And so in all the ads when they appeared, the images were reversed. so that you couldn't read the English text directly. But if you grabbed the image and then straightened it, reversed it again, mirror imaged it, then you would see what it said. But they didn't blur it out or anything. Just bam, right there on a Coleman ad, InfoWars, Tyranny Response Team. Beautiful, man, beautiful. One of the highlights of being a patriot. Yeah, that was fun stuff, huh? Yeah, there's some great memories, man. But guys, I got to roll, man. It's 9:30. We've been at it for over 2 hours now. Everybody's going to be waking up soon, and I got a bunch of housework to do. Wash some fucking dishes. Yeah, but Jeff, we'll look into that. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. I hope you guys can join me back here tomorrow to talk about the Haunter of the Dark. I assigned as homework. If you want to take part in the Lovecraft Society, I'll be meeting Sunday mornings for the Lovecraft Society, and I want to try to kind of stay focused. Yeah, you guys have a good night, man. I'll see you guys next time. We're going to talk about Haunter of the Dark. So I've done some notes. Let's wrap up with the USS Cyclops. Okay. We'll do that, Jeff. Let me open a wiki page on it.
He is immersed in an infinite creative medium, which, because of its nature, has to create for him whatever he believes. Jesus understood this, and in a few simple words laid down the law of life. It is done unto all people as they believe. This is a great thing to keep in mind. It is done unto us. We do not have to do it, for it is done unto us of a power that knows itself to be all there is. Could we even believe?
Wow, Jeff, that's a good story, man. That looks like something to definitely research. The USS Cyclops went down in the Bermuda Triangle with all hands March of 1918, leaving us with a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. The ship simply vanished without a trace. No debris from it ever recovered, not a bit of wreckage, nor any sign of destruction has ever been found. Wow, that is fascinating, Jeff. Sometimes when I try to open a share window here on StreamYard, it will throttle the transmission. So I'll just look at the article here on Wikipedia. Yeah, the USS Cyclops was an AC-4 Proteus class collier built for the United States Navy several years before World War I. Named the Cyclops after the Greek mythology race of one-eyed giants. She was the second U.S. naval vessel to bear that name. The loss of the ship and 306 souls, 306 crew members and passengers disappeared without a trace sometime after the 4th of March, 1918. So over 100 years ago. It remains to be the single largest loss of life in naval history, not directly involved in combat. As the loss occurred during World War I, she was thought to have been captured or sunk by a German raider or submarine. But because she was carrying 10,000 long tons of magnesium ore used to produce munitions, German authorities at the time subsequently denied any knowledge of the vessel. The U.S. Naval History and Heritage Command says that it probably sank in an unexpected storm, but the cause of the ship's loss is still unknown today. Wow, that's pretty fascinating, Jeff. The, the ship put to sea from Rio de Janeiro on the 16th of February, 1918, and entered Salvador on the 20th of February. 2 days later, she departed from Baltimore, Maryland, with no stops scheduled, carrying the magnesium ore. The ship was thought to be overloaded when she left Brazil, as her maximum capacity of 8,000 long tons had been exceeded. So she was over 2,000 long tons over capacity. So that might have something to do with it, man. Reports indicated that on the 10th of March, the day after the Cyclops was rumored to have been sighted off of Amolco, a violent storm swept through the Virginia Capes. While some suggest that the combination of the overloaded condition, engine trouble, and bad weather may have conspired to sink the Cyclops, an extensive naval investigation concluded. Many theories have been advanced, but none that satisfactorily accounts for her disappearance. So, because it's Wikipedia, they don't give any credit to the Bermuda Triangle thoughts, Jeff, but they say that all they say, there's one simple sentence with a footnote that says outlandish theory attributes all three vessels' disappearances to the Bermuda Triangle. They say that's outlandish, and that's the only mention they give. Not even a full sentence. A subordinate clause in a single sentence is all that. That's all the credit that's given to your thought there, Jeff. So that shows you where Wikipedia is at these days. It used to be that Wikipedia would have an entire section of footnotes at the end of an article if they had conspiracy theories surrounding it. You know, if there was any kind of paranormal speculation about an event in history, then they would give credit to those theories. But they've removed all of that under the new March mandates with the Homeland. So it's their Heimat. So now that the U.S. is no longer the United States of America, and now that it's the Heimat or the Homeland, they've removed all of that from the internet. And as far as I know, you can't even research these things anymore. People haven't figured out yet that full spectrum dominance means just that nothing will get through anymore. So I would hate to even speculate about it at this point. But yeah, I'd like to do some research in that direction, Jeff. I'll have a look into it. I'll try to remember if my pops ever talked about it. I don't remember him ever talking about it. But yeah, I would be remiss if I don't look into it. I could do some scrying in the astral and see if there are any leads in the spirit realm. Maybe a ghost will come to me. I could summon my father's spirit and ask him. So a couple of interesting tidbits before we sign off for the day, guys. The ship was referenced in a 2019 horror adventure game called The Sinking City. And the mysterious sinking is the sole survivor lost at sea. Otherworldly events which caused Charles to see visions. Charles Winfield Reed. That's interesting. The ship sinking and Reed's subsequent experiences prior to the game's beginning also closely mirror that of the unnamed protagonist of Dagon. There you go. No mystery that everything in the era, this is the Aeon of Cthulhu, guys. Everything can somehow trace back to Lovecraft. Yeah, we're right back where we started, man. The one you guys really need to research if you're interested on finding the gate, the key. It's called the Gates of the Silver Key. That's the one that has most of the answers in it, man. But yeah, I was talking about the crocodile-headed anthropomorphic beings that I met with the other day in the Fathomless Cavern, and they're mentioned in The Nameless City by Lovecraft. And I had talked about it online, on live in the chat, and then the next day, YouTube suggested that I listen to the audiobook done by Horror Babble of The Nameless City. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really like the guy's voice that much on Horror Babble. I prefer the guy over on the Exploring series or the H.P. Lovecraft Society. But I listened to it anyway, and it mentions the crocodile-headed, the alligator heads. And then I met with them in Dreamland. I met with them. I met with them in Dreamland, talked about it here live, and then the next day I heard the story. So, all right, guys, that's all the time I got for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for getting me out of bed, Jeff, and ensuring that I did a live show. Much love to you guys. Keep the conversation going in the comments, please. Come back, leave a comment on the video. Please hit the thumbs up button, guys. Just for my own peace of mind. I'm not going to worry about what's going on with the horse shit with Karen at the boob tube anymore, but I like to know that you guys have watched the video and approve. And I'll do some research into that, Jeff. Have a good night, man. Chris, send me some more messages on Instagram. I'll go and check that right now. If you haven't already, if you've got covert communiques, then send them to my email, and maybe I'll try to open another email if you feel like Gmail is too exposed to the naysayers. Yeah, Dagon must have been involved, man. It was claimed by Cthulhu. But 1918, I'm gonna look into that because there are key dates. 1918 is 5 years before Lovecraft started writing. So Lovecraft would have been 28 years old. Wow, that's interesting. That's usually when people wake up to Dagon in the Taoist tradition, because 28 years old is 10,000 days of life, and it's a very sacred date. It's when the 100 meeting point opens in the psyche for young men. It's different for women. All right, guys, I will see you in the abodes of the future. Until then, good magic.